All right, can everybody hear me? Check. What was that? Okay. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. A lot's happened since we've last been on, particularly an ICE agent shot and killed an American citizen on American soil in Minnesota. Now there is debate as to whether this was self-defense, whether it was justified. Sorry, something fell. There's debate as to whether this is self-defense, whether this is justified. We're here to talk about it. I have some videos pulled up. I do want to say, first thing off the bat is when Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, I said no one should celebrate the loss of human life, and it's wrong. And now that Renee Good has been killed, I say no one should celebrate the loss of human life, and it's wrong. It's the same exact situation. It doesn't matter who the victim is or what their beliefs are. No one deserves to die like that. Now, there's a couple things. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to hear what politicians are saying. So, first of all, the ICE officer has finally been named. So let's pull that up real quick. His name is Jonathan Ross.
Documents and accounts from federal officials. The ICE agent who shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Good is Jonathan Ross.
Investigative reporter Kirsten Swanson has new details about Ross and a look at his history here in the Twin Cities.
A law enforcement source tells ABC News that Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent seen here, is based in Minneapolis. Homeland Security officials confirmed to us he has 10 years of experience as an ICE deportation officer and is a member of the Special Response Team. Now, that is a highly trained tactical unit that's dispatched in high-profile situations.
Real quick. Actually, let's let it finish.
After the shooting, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem told reporters this was the same agent who was injured in June when he was rammed by a car and dragged. And today, while answering questions at the White House, Vice President J.D. Vance added even more detail to that story. Listen.
That very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
Using that information, our team found court documents that describe that encounter. It happened in Bloomington back on June 17th. According to federal charges, Roberto Carlo Munzuno, Guatemala, fled from ICE agents when they attempted an immigration arrest. Now, during that stop, Ross ordered him out of the car. When Munoz, Guatemala didn't comply, Ross broke the car's rear driver's side window that you see here and reached in to unlock the driver door. At that point, Munoz, Guatemala drove off, dragging the agent approximately 100 yards down the street, according to court documents. The charging documents include photos of Ross's injuries, a cut to his right arm and a gash on his left hand, both required stitches. Last month, the jury convicted Munoz, Guatemala of assault of a federal officer with a dangerous and deadly weapon. Court records show Ross was the prosecution's first witness who testified in that trial. Now, our team asked the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay. So, you're on screen. Or you were when you walked in.
My butt's not out.
I was just letting you know. Okay. So for starters, actually let's pull that back up. For starters, he was in an accident. This guy right here, Jonathan Ross, was in an accident 6 months before. Let's pull that. Where is it at? Right there. So this is the position he put himself in. The person is not complying. He breaks the back window and tries to reach around to open the driver door. As an officer, well, I'm not an officer, but like an officer would tell you, that is not proper protocol, first of all. So let's just make that clear. He put himself in a dangerous situation and got drug around by a car. I'm not saying that the guy, what was his name? The guy in this particular scenario in June. I'm not saying he was right. He was clearly in the wrong. But this is just saying that this officer put himself in a bad position and got drug 100 yards, as they say, right? Now, in this situation, the ICE officer put himself in another bad situation, standing in front of the car. So you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to put yourself in danger. You never stand in front of a car, right? So he's putting himself in a bad situation, and it's against policy to shoot into a car, right? And I'm about to pull up actual Homeland Security policy. I've got it on Instagram. Hold on. Here it is. Okay. All right, so this is actual Homeland Security policy.
The car, per his own department policy. Per the Department of Homeland Security website, this Homeland Security policy statement clearly states DHS LEO should seek to employ tactics and techniques that effectively bring an incident under control while promoting the safety of LEOs and the public, and that minimize the risk of unintended injury or serious property damage. DHS LEO should also avoid intentionally and unreasonably placing themselves in positions in which they have no alternative to using deadly force. He not only placed himself in that position against policy, but he already had his hand on his weapon even as he was crossing in front. He had every intention of doing this. He pulled out his weapon while she was reversing. And then they again went against DHS policy when a medical doctor said, "Can I please check her pulse?" And they absolutely refused and used the words, "I don't care," to him, because as soon as practicable following a use of force and end of any perceived public safety threat, DHS LEO shall obtain appropriate medical assistance for any subject who has visible or apparent injuries. He should have never been crossing in front of her vehicle in the first place, but he knew exactly what he was doing when he did so. He had intentions when he did so. His hand was already on his weapon. He had it drawn and in her face before she even finished reversing. He had plenty of time to step out of the way. But instead, he pointed that gun directly at Renee Nicole Good, and he murdered her.
Now, that woman clearly has an opinion, right? And so I don't want you to take that. Obviously, form your own opinion, not just what she says. But what is clear is that he went against policy, right? And that's 2 times now. You think he would have learned the first time. The first time, he paid for it and got drugged. And J.D. Vance's argument was that, don't you think he would be scared or, more likely to defend himself? Yes, but I think he would be more likely to not put himself in harm's way again, make another dumb decision. Maybe he did that on purpose, maybe he didn't. But the whole point is, he put himself in a bad situation again. So when I found that out, I thought that was really interesting. I thought you guys should know that. Oh, sorry. So let's watch Vance's address to the shooting. Let's see what he has to say.
Walking out here, somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman...
Okay, so he says that she's a paid protester. I don't know if it's on YouTube. Let me pull it up real quick. What we're going to look up is try to find the footage. So there's like 3 different angles that I've seen. Maybe 4. So let's look up footage of woman shot in Minnesota. Okay, so there's one angle. This one from down the street, and this is Fox News. Now, before you get into that, this is the one that I think I saw first. Here.
Factor meals deliver pro-level nutrition with chef-crafted flavors that make it easy to feed your
Unskippable
performance.
ad.
Factor. Eat like a pro.
Okay. Graphic content, yes. Okay, now pay really close attention, alright? She's blocking the road. This isn't the full video. In the full video I saw she was waving people to go past her. So, there is that. No! They don't try to de-escalate at all. They immediately went to open her door, reaching in the car. I don't think that's what law enforcement should do, personally. But regardless, she's backing up with her wheel turned to the left. Okay? Wheel turn to the left, backs up. As she's turning to the right, she pulls off. Frame by frame. Well, that didn't work. Oh, wait, we can do slow motion. Here. That's cool. Playback speed, let's go 0.25. Alright. So he's literally like a gangster holding his gun sideways. I don't know if you guys saw that. Right there, right there. If you see my mouse, holding it sideways like a gangster, right? So not even holding it the right way he was taught. Right there. Both of his feet are out of the way of the car, okay? So not only he wasn't supposed to be in front of the car in the first place, but say he was in front of the car was obviously going to hit him and he shot. That's self-defense, right? He's obviously out of the way of the car. Then he shoots after he's already out of the way. And this is important. Here's the smoke. You see the smoke? Came when the gunshot fired. Watch it again. No smoke. Smoke, right? So that's smoke from the gun. And then she's probably instantly dead, and foot just goes down on the pedal, slumped over, crashes into this car down the road. This video is longer than I thought. Let's see where it goes. Before we go to the next one, but I want you guys to remember the smoke. It's really important. But in that video, very clearly was not in harm's way at the time. Now, it's very possible, spur of the moment, reaction. Maybe it's not murder, but I'm leaning towards manslaughter here, guys. I think it's still wrong. I think he should be stripped of his badge completely. I don't know if it's murder, but he should not be an officer at all. At all. Not at all. He, first of all, continuously breaks policy. And second of all, regardless of that, I mean, the government's lying, right? So this is him. Trump said that this is him right here, the guy who shot. Standing up tall, not injured at all. Just shot a woman in the head. Trump, let's see if we can find Trump's tweet real quick. Tweet about ICE agent. Trump's tweet about ICE agent. Okay, yeah. Check this out. Hard to read. But I just viewed the clip of the event, which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, and then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job of making America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from this radical left movement of violence and hate. This is why, first of all, the left and right is just... It seems both sides just want more federal power for their side. So they want the big government to step in if it helps the left, or if it helps the... In this situation, it's the right, right? There should be less federal power in general, doesn't matter what. But so that part of the tweet, driving the car was violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer. It's hard to believe he is alive and now recovering in the hospital, right? So let's go back to that video, and you tell me if you think it's hard to believe he's alive. I just want to watch it one more time. I know it's graphic. He was not hit by the car. We're gonna go back to normal playback speed, guys. Okay. So he was not hit at all, right?
God! What the f?
So that is the Trump administration lying, straight up, lying. And that's where we're going to get into that other video in just a second.
What the f?
Dramatic video purportedly shows the...
Okay, so it's not going to show... So there's a before and after. I'll probably have to show you guys on Instagram later. But the before, she's waving cars across. She waves the ICE agents to go ahead. Apparently, she lived there, and that's her neighborhood. Because the doctor who was on scene, who just happened to live there as well, asked to see if she had a pulse or anything, and they would not let him near her. And that's the other policy infringement we're talking about. But he said, "You just killed my neighbor." And so she lives in that area, probably on that street. It's not confirmed, you know. We might need to look at some eyewitnesses for that. But regardless, is the whole story of what happened is from the administration is wrong. So this is the government lying 100%. All right. Oh, and after the fact, yeah, the outrage. Now let's look at that other video. This is a different angle. So this one was pretty high quality. You saw it pretty clearly. Now this is from Fox News.
Another one of our reporters who has been there.
Running breaks your joints. Tai Chi builds them back. After 50, you need that.
Karen Scullen is with us right now as well. Again, another one of our reporters who has been there from primarily the very beginning. I understand, Karen, you got
left.
Okay, right here.
Actions. In it, you see the agent on the front left corner of the SUV. And in the chaos, it does appear to show that agent being hit by that SUV. The agent then fires 3 times, reported.
So, that right there, first of all, very low quality video, okay? Second of all, it looks a little fishy to me, right? Especially comparing it to that other video. Remember the smoke? There's no smoke, right? So let's watch it again.
Agent being hit by that SUV. The agent then fires 3 times, reportedly hitting the woman in the face. The driver then crashes into 2 parked cars. ICE is claiming self-defense that the woman was using her car as a weapon. A lot of protesters showed up shouting and screaming that the shooting was unjustified, blocking agents from leaving the scene. They were pounding on windows, throwing things at the agents. This situation played out several times. Eventually, chemical spray was deployed, which did help clear the way for ICE to exit. And those confrontations...
Okay, so that video, I don't want to give you false information, so let me double check. Angle of ICE shooting released by Trump administration. Videos contradict Trump administration account. No, it's not what I'm looking at. So either way, that's from Fox News, right? So they're saying that this video is more reliable than this video. This video looks different than the one we saw. It's the same. It just looks blurry. It looks weird. Regardless, it's all fake news. I mean, like Fox, CNN, whatever, it's all fake, but that's why you kind of have to look at all of it. What I'm saying is, in that video right there, it's very blurry, so it's hard to tell, but you can't really see a gun in his hand, and you can't really see smoke either. So it leads me to believe that it's AI, or it's edited in some way. And that's kind of the problem with today's day and age, is you cannot be 100% sure if what you're viewing is real, right? But what I would tend to trust is the video that's more clear, closer to the situation. You know, that's what I would tend to trust. And that video shows that the ICE agent was not harmed in any way, not hit by the car. And even so, in this video, you know, Trump says he's lucky to be alive. Very clearly just kind of braced in this video, braced around the car, and, you know, got out of the way. It really didn't look that bad at all. His stance is different in the video, in both videos, so it leads me to believe that one of these videos is false, and that's why I think that we should trust the more clear one. Now let's go back to Vance's speech, address.
As part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE, I stand with ICE, we stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Every single one of you. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to read a quote from Tim Walz.
What I will say is she should have complied. She should have gotten out of the car, yes. Does she deserve to die for leaving? No. In fact, it's against the law to shoot a criminal just because they're fleeing. And this is assuming that she's a criminal, which it doesn't look like she was. Regardless, she definitely wasn't illegal. She was white. So, regardless, it's illegal to shoot a suspect just because they're fleeing the scene. So that is against the law, what he did, right? That's why they're arguing self-defense, and that's why this video's out. And I hate to say it, but I think it's a fake video. I think this is very clearly lies. Let's keep watching.
Earlier today, he said, when things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863, and I think we may be in that moment now. Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Frey and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find.
It's a little convenient. It's a little convenient, I think, that the Minnesota fraud situation happened just weeks before this, even though the Minnesota fraud happened since 2019, right? Now, can I agree that Tim Walz is a joke? From what I've seen, yeah, seems like a joke. But is Tim Walz wrong in this situation? No. Someone died. Someone was killed. So, once again, it's left for... I find that hard to believe from a guy who did this, and that. Basically bringing up other things instead of what's actually happening.
Yeah, I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
On a related question here, I mean, Democrats have accused ICE of murder. They've said ICE to get the F out of Minnesota, this is going to stoke the fire against ICE agents. And you're talking about ICE agents right now and being concerned about them. What, if anything, is the administration going to do to make sure these folks are protected during these protests? But also, should DHS sort of revisit their procedures here? I mean, nobody wants to see an American killed. Are there changes that need to be made to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Look, first of all, of course, nobody wants an American citizen to be killed. This is absolutely a tragedy, but it's a tragedy of the making of the far left. They have radicalized a very small segment of the population, taught them that ICE agents are engaging in wide-scale violation of people's rights. What our ICE officers are doing is deporting the millions of criminal aliens that were let in during the Biden administration. So number one.
Okay, so that was a good response, I will admit. But he said that ICE agents are not, they're only detaining illegals, and they're not, what were the words he used? Let's run that back.
In wide-scale violation of people's rights.
He said they're not in wide-scale violation of people's rights. So let's double check that. So first of all, I'm going to show this video real quick. I'm not 100% sure that it's real, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's graphic. I'm sorry, guys. So it very well could be AI too, but I did see the wheel pop up like it ran over something. Those screams do seem very real. So that would be a major violation, right? And here's another one.
You told agents that you had served in the military, is that correct?
Yes.
You clearly stated that you were a U.S. veteran and served this country, is that correct?
Yes.
When you were violently arrested by ICE, you had no contact with your family the entire time that you were in detention by your own government that you served in Iraq, is that correct?
Yes.
How many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you, sir.
For those
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Sejun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our
And
to have
behind you, please stand up, sir. His name is Jim Brown from Troy, Missouri. He is a Navy combat veteran who served our country in the Gulf War. He's married to a woman named Donna, who came to our country legally from Ireland when she was 11 years old. She has lived here for 48 years. Because of you, Jim's wife, Donna, has been in prison for the last 4 months. She did not come here illegally, and she has never committed any crime other than writing 2 bad checks totaling $80 10 years ago.
End deportations! The power of Belgium! Love thy neighbor!
Love thy neighbor. So, that's another violation. What's this one?
On July 10th,
Yeah,
2025, I was confronted by ICE agents on my way to work. I want you to understand exactly what that looked like. Not because I want sympathy, but because it exposes a crack in the law that must be fixed. I was driving to my job as a security guard at a licensed farm in Camarillo, California. Federal immigration agents were lined across the road leading to the farm. I identified myself as a U.S. citizen and a veteran, but that didn't matter. Agents smashed my window, sprayed tear gas and pepper spray into my car, dragged me out. I was choking on gas, unable to breathe, while officers shouted conflicting commands even after I complied. They pinned me down, one kneeling on my back and another kneeling on my neck, while my hands were already behind me. I was first taken to a Navy base where agents collected my DNA, and after that, I was taken to a detention center and held for 3 days without charges. No phone call, no lawyer, no medical care, even though my skin burned from the chemicals. I wasn't allowed to shower.
So, yeah, so that's another violation. Is that how we want to treat our veterans? We'll get to these. So, But so just Vance is wrong, right? So there clearly is a massive. Oh, that's what I wanted to look up. How many civilians have been U.S. citizens have been killed by ICE so far? How many U.S. citizens have been killed by ICE? During Trump's term, because ICE has been around for a while. All right, 2025 was ICE's deadliest year in 2 decades. Here are the 32 people who died in custody. Sorry if I pronounce these wrong. Guillermo Ruiz Guillen, 29, of Honduras, died in a hospital. Okay, so he came to the United States from Honduras in 2023. He worked in construction. Was he legal? Not saying. Okay. Ukrainian citizen. Okay, so these are, although this is still terrible, these aren't American citizens. But let's look up how many American citizens. So first of all, we have a way of going about things, and you're supposed to treat prisoners with respect. You know, I mean, that's plain and simple. So even though these guys weren't legal, they shouldn't have died in custody. That's not okay. I'm just going through this just to make sure. This guy was a citizen, legal resident in 1983. 1991, he was convicted of a second-degree murder. So that's probably why these haven't gotten much screen time, because unfortunately they are illegal. He was detained for unlawful entry, and one guy was a murderer. Okay, I want to look up U.S. citizens detained by ICE. Okay. Immigration agents have held more than 170 Americans. 170 U.S. citizens have been held by immigration agents. They've been kicked, dragged, and detained for days. You guys able to see this? Cool. All right. If the officers learn that the individual they stopped is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the United States, they promptly let the individual go, but that is far from the reality. Americans have been dragged, tackled, beaten, tased, and shot by immigration agents. They've had their necks kneeled on. They've been outside in the rain while in their underwear. At least 3 citizens were pregnant when agents detained them. One of those women had already had the door of her home blown off while Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem watched. About 24 Americans have said they were held for more than a day without being able to phone lawyers or loved ones. So they didn't get a phone call. Videos of U.S. citizens being mistreated have filled social media feeds, but there's little clarity. We compiled and reviewed every case. Among the citizens detained are nearly 20 children, including 2 with cancer. That includes 4 who were held for weeks with their undocumented mother and without access to okay. Nearly 50 instances we have identified so far, charges have never been filed or the cases were dismissed. Our count found a handful of citizens have pleaded guilty, mostly to misdemeanors. Immigration agents can arrest citizens who allegedly interfered with or assaulted officers. We compiled cases of about 130 Americans. Among the detentions in which allegations have not stuck, masked agents pointed a gun at pepper sprayed and punched a young man who had filmed them searching for his relative. In another, agents knocked over and then tackled a 79-year-old car wash owner, pressing their knees into his neck and back. This is George Retes, the guy who the video. He's an American combat veteran. At the site of his arrest, he was detained for 3 days without access to a lawyer and missed his daughter's 3rd birthday. So, also that's a violation of the amendment. He's brown, so they took him in. You know what I mean? He identified himself as a citizen and a veteran, and it didn't matter. So, there's a lot of amendment violations that we're hitting. But regardless, more than 170 U.S. citizens have been held by immigration agents. Now let's continue.
What our ICE officers are doing is deporting the millions of criminal aliens that were let in during the Biden administration. So number one, we have to say, as a matter of leadership, and I would appreciate if the Democrats would join me on this, let's be honest about the fact that we have way too many illegal aliens in this country. Our ICE officers should be supported in doing their job. You're trying to actually marshal the far left lunatic fringe to engage in doxing, to try to make it impossible for them to enforce the law, and in some cases actually to engage in acts of domestic terrorism against our law enforcement officers. When you talk about different plans, different protocols, different policies, I forget exactly how you asked the question. Here's the simple fact. What we're going to do is make it easier for the American People's Administration to enforce the American People's law. And that means that Democrats have to stop rallying the mob against legitimate law enforcement operations, and that means that we are going to get tougher, and that's what this AAG position is about. We're going to get tougher at the people who are defrauding the United States by inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's one of the things that we're going to do. We've already started that work at the Department of Justice, but we're going to keep on doing it, and this new AAG position is going to kick that into high gear.
Vice President Vance, you just suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Scribe is how you stop explaining the same thing over and over at work. Watch this. It'll change your life. Raise your hand.
Well, it's one of the things we're going to have to figure out.
That was a good question.
But here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent, or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis, you see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, that she was there to engage in obstruction. People who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it? Who's supporting it? Who's cheerleading it? And of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist?
Vice President Vance, what about the Epstein files?
About very specific facts of these events. When an investigation is just beginning, are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received any information beyond the videos we've seen publicly about this individual person?
Also, he said there were eyewitnesses that said that she was there to obstruct. I've seen one eyewitness after the fact. Even so, there to obstruct, yes. Violent? No. So the argument doesn't really hold up, you know? And you are allowed to protest. That's a part of America, you know? And they're saying, like, you can't interfere with law enforcement. That's the whole thing. But I wouldn't say she was harassing them. I mean, we'll pull up the video, but she was waving them across. It doesn't matter. The argument doesn't hold up, in my opinion.
acts that has informed your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a...
I'm debating that. I'm debating that. I'm debating that. Two videos, we've already been through it. They're contradicting. One looks edited, one looks clear. The one that looks clear is going against what you're saying.
While also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers. I think what is clearly happening here, and it's going to keep on happening unless the Democrats wake up and say, you know what, you don't have to agree with our immigration policies. You don't have to agree with what the president or the vice president believe about immigration enforcement, but why don't you take this to the ballot box? Why don't you vote? Why don't you organize? Instead, what some of them are doing is encouraging people to get violent with our law enforcement officials. It's disgraceful, and it's got to stop.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that question, and again, thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. There's clearly a lot of emotion in Minnesota, across the country, over this incident. You're calling Renee Good a deranged leftist. There's been heated rhetoric that we've also heard from officials. What responsibility do you and the president have to diffuse some of the tension that we are seeing play out in Minnesota, bring down the temperature as this investigation is unfolding?
What we have a responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the United States of America. Now, again, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest.
A lot of your supporters are. A lot of your supporters are saying, F around and find out. She got what she deserved. A lot of disgusting things.
Violating the law.
Now, that's not you. I get that. But, you know, that... Just saying.
By interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our...
One thing I will say is that I agree that there shouldn't be tons of illegal aliens, I guess, right? Illegal people. Undocumented residents, whatever you want to call it. They shouldn't... You should come in the right way. But ICE is the most inefficient, just not a good way of going about things at all. I mean, first of all, there should be literally no chance of a U.S. citizen being detained, right? Maybe you don't have your ID on you. That's fine. Get their information. Call someone. Don't just take them just because they don't have their ID on them in the moment. And we have, I mean, you know, they can do all this research and know all these things about people, but they can't know. There's so many mistakes, is what I'm trying to say. There's so many mistakes. It's very inefficient organization. I think it's been a disaster and a disappointment, and it's honestly kind of disgusting. It seems to be more about control than about the well-being of Americans.
Law enforcement officers, that's the best way to take down the temperature.
And I don't like how they're in masks either. You shouldn't wear a mask. You should not wear a mask if you're a law enforcement officer. And that's what I don't like about the Patriot Front either. They're an organization. They wear masks. I understand, you know, they have a reason for doing it, but it's not a good enough reason in my opinion. I believe if you're wanting to make a difference, or you're wanting to make a change, or you're a law enforcement officer, you need to be able to show your face. That's point blank. Masked law enforcement is never good. Never in history has it been good. So, yeah, that's one more pet peeve.
We're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. People trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot at them. Sometimes they dox them. Sometimes they go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before.
He is not wrong that there are people doxing ICE agents and there are people throwing bricks, but that wasn't happening here. This situation, he's bringing up other situations to justify this one, but in this situation, and dude, quit saying that the car was gonna run him over. It wasn't close. I'm sorry, it wasn't. And even so, it's going 1 mile an hour. Very easily step out of the way, as he did. He stepped out of the way and then he shot. He was out of harm's way and then he shot. That is a big problem.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my question. So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agency's access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job.
Boom. So, absolute immunity. That's really what I was waiting for. So, J.D. Vance says federal officers have absolute immunity when they're doing their jobs. Not even a day later, 2 people are shot by federal immigration officers in Portland. Is that a cause and effect relationship? Time will tell. And we'll get to that video too. I have it. Well, let's see how long it is. Let's watch it real quick.
Investigation, so information is limited and won't be speaking to a lot of specifics. But what I can say is that approximately 2:18 this afternoon, Portland police officers responded to the 10,000 block of Southeast Main Street on the report of a shooting. So they came in via a 911 call. Officers confirmed that federal agents had been involved in a shooting. Portland police were not involved in that incident. About 6 minutes later, at 2:24 p.m., officers received information, once again through dispatch, that a man who had been shot was calling and requesting help in the area of Northeast 146th and East Burnside. Our officers responded. We found a male and a female with apparent gunshot wounds. Officers applied a tourniquet and summoned emergency medical personnel. The patients were transported to local hospital, and their conditions at this time are unknown.
Look, I know this is unrelated, and everyone does it sometimes. Like, even I've done it a little bit after eating this meal, but get in shape, dude. Like, and like I can barely focus on what you're saying because you're so out of breath.
Determined that the 2 people who were injured in the shooting involving the federal agents from the earlier call. PPB officers secured both scenes, and this is a federal investigation. It's being led by the FBI. We have been in touch with...
So, FBI is leading the investigation on what happened in Minneapolis. FBI is leading the investigation on what happened in Portland. FBI leads the investigation on pretty much everything that happens federally. So the federal government is investigating the federal government. I don't know if you guys... I mean, that's very clearly, like, a problem, you know? First of all, it's probably the state that it happened in should be able to investigate it. They're not even allowing Minneapolis or Minnesota or Portland to investigate. The FBI is just going to handle it. Just like the FBI handled the Epstein files. Special Redaction Project. Look it up. So, you know, that's something to think about.
We are, you know, in regular contact. This is their responsibility, but when we have these type of events happen in the city, Portland Police Bureau does offer a level of assistance. This is not any way, shape, or form immigration related on our end. We do not know the facts of this case. We are simply providing that traditional investigative support and perimeter support, which is minimal. But I do want to make it clear that we are out there, but we are not involved in immigration. And we at this time do not know if this is an immigration related event. We do not know which federal agencies were involved. As we know, there are many federal agencies serving in the city of Portland right now. So.
All right, bro. Here's this one. This one's really important. It says federal agent says he feared for his here so you guys can see. Federal agent says he feared for his life when firing shots in Portland, right? And that's exactly what has happened with the other situation in Minneapolis. You know, all you have to say is you feared for your life, and then you can shoot whoever you want. Is what it seems like.
Are investigating a shooting involving federal agents. Details are just coming in the last few minutes, and according to police, 2 people have been hospitalized after a shooting that happened just after 2 o'clock this afternoon local time. That was about 3 hours ago. And investigators say there are 2 separate crime scenes several miles apart. One where that shooting happened at some sort of medical facility, and another where officers later found the victims at an apartment complex. Let's bring in Camila Bernal, who is following the very latest for us here in the studio. Camila, what is the latest, and what are we hearing about the people that were shot?
So there's very limited details at the moment, Gotti, because we are hearing from the local police department, and the local police department is saying this is not our investigation. We just heard from the federal government, and they sort of gave us a better picture of what they say happened. But it is important to keep in mind before I read their statement that we don't have video of what happened here. So different as to what we saw in Minneapolis. We saw the video and we were able to essentially narrate everything that happened in Minneapolis. That is not the case this time. So what the federal government is saying here is that it was at 2:19.
Guys, real quick, I can't pull the stream up on my phone. I just got to double check that we are good. So give me 1 second. More like 2 minutes, but you get the idea. Just give me just a couple seconds. Okay, yeah, so we're live. Something's wrong with the phone. Cool. All right, just had to make sure, guys. Sorry. Let's get back to it. Where's it at?
p.m. Pacific time, Border Patrol agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop in Portland, Oregon. The passenger of the vehicle and the target is a Venezuelan illegal alien affiliated with transnational Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland. The vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, and when the agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over law enforcement agents. So essentially, they're saying it's the same thing that happened in Minneapolis, except in this case, what they're saying is that these people are involved with the gang Tren de Aragua. Again, we don't know what exactly.
Okay, so they're saying they're involved with the gang. Obviously, we don't know the details, right? So this could have been someone who was actually trying to hurt a federal agent, right? It's just very convenient that right after, pretty much like really, really soon after J.D. Vance says they are immune, they have immunity because they're federal agents doing federal agent activities, they're immune to scrutiny or prosecution, that 2 more people get shot, right? That's kind of what I want to bring up here.
The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue, that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop.
Our Minnesotian, is that how you say it? Our Minnesota officials, encouraging. See, this is what I encourage all of you to do. Violence against ICE. I encourage everyone to fact check and research everything, right? So, let's see. First of all, let's look at this. Minnesota officials say they can't access Minneapolis ICE shooting evidence as FBI takes case. Feds detain protesters. Minnesota officials, Trump administration, battle over investigation into Minneapolis ICE shooting. The reason why I said I don't think it's murder is because the definition, let's look it up real quick, murder definition. I believe it has to have premeditation. And that's the difference between murder and manslaughter, is that manslaughter is a heat of the moment action that causes death, and murder is the unlawful premeditated killing of one human being by another, right? So there is a difference there. Now, maybe, some people are arguing that it was premeditated. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to shoot her, that is an argument to make. I'm not going to disagree or agree with that, but I will say I'm leaning towards manslaughter on this one. Either way, he stole her life for sure. That's a life missing in the world because of him, and that's completely wrong. So, but I have not seen, let's see, let's look up Tim Walz calls for violence against ICE. Radical rhetoric by sanctuary politicians leads. So this is by Homeland Security. So take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But radical rhetoric by sanctuary politicians leads to an unprecedented 1,300% increase in assaults against ICE officers and a 3,200% increase in vehicular attacks. Excuse me. So can I get some example? Okay, so it is absolutely sickening to compare ICE and law enforcement agents to the Gestapo. It's kind of close, actually. I'm not gonna lie. Masked agents dragging people out in the streets, and clearly, if you're a citizen, you're not safe either, as we've seen, as we looked up earlier, with the 175. What was it? 175 American citizens detained for up to 3 days with no food, no water, not able to make a phone call. Trump's modern day Gestapo. I mean, he's not completely wrong for that. And the mayor of, he cussed, and some people are clutching their pearls about that. And I don't think it's professional. But the mayor said, "ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis" in a speech, and we can bring up his speech too for sure. We'll watch it. But House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called for people to fight President Trump's agenda in the streets. Governor Pritzker claimed the United States is essentially becoming Nazi Germany as a result of ICE's heroic efforts. Compared mask-wearing ICE agents to a neo-Nazi group. NSC 131 routinely wears masks. It is kind of funny that they're all wearing masks in this photo, but Oh, here's one thing though. So they're saying that people are calling for violence, but I mean, didn't Trump do the same thing, encouraging people to break into the Capitol and all that? So like, you know what I mean? Our Proud Boys stand back and stand by. It was all weird, and when Trump was shot in the ear, fight, fight, fight. He did that, right? So he's also telling people to fight. And people are allowed to have an opinion. Likens ICE agents to vigilantes engaged in kidnapping. How can we even trust that? How can we trust that these are government officials when they wear a mask? So this is some examples. A pedophile and criminal illegal alien hammered an ICE officer in the face with a metal coffee cup, breaking his lip open with a... that's tough. I'm sorry that happened. A criminal illegal alien viciously bitten ICE officer while resisting arrest. A group of at least 10 violent individuals opened fire at the Prairieland Detention Center. A sniper indiscriminately opened fire on the Dallas ICE facility and shot 3 detainees, killing 2 and injuring a 3rd. So, if this is all true, which I don't have the time to go through and fact check every one, I'm going to take it at face value and say that it is true. This is awful, right? This is awful, But do these attacks Do these attacks mean that they're completely in the right just because they were attacked? No. Right? So they're using these things that happen, which are terrible, to justify what they're doing, which is also terrible. Now, let's get off of the Homeland Security website. And eyewitnesses say Renee Good posed no threat to ICE agents. We can check that out real quick. I mean, I thought it was pretty clear, though. ICE says shooting a woman was justified. Waltz and Frey say no. We need to be responding to the violence with peace because that's what we're called to do as people of faith. I agree. It's terrible that somebody has to die over this, but I just hope they can see the truth in these videos and what comes out of our law enforcement investigating this. What happens to one of us happens to all of us. Which is true. I mean, you don't see this stuff happening in Texas. You see it happening in Minnesota, California. I mean, I'm sure it happens in Texas too, but it doesn't happen where I am, right? And I think that's for a reason because, you know, I don't think it would go over so smoothly. I think Minneapolis, Minnesota, people are generally unarmed. Like, there's not many armed people. I'm pretty sure, isn't it illegal? There's gun control, I'm pretty sure. It is a very liberal state. And that's why I think we should all be armed, because of situations like this. The Second Amendment is there because if the government is tyrannous, right? Now, the situation may not be what actually determines the tyranny, but I do have to say that the government is getting real tyrannous recently. And, you know, that's why the Second Amendment is so important. I'm not seeing the eyewitness, though. Regardless, let's move on from this one. And it's also divide and conquer, I want to say. Now, this is a real life situation, but you know, the way the media is portraying this and just the way they want us to fight each other, right? And so it's, you know, it's left and right? But I can't be put into that box. I don't think I'm left or right. What I am is I'm pro human life. I don't believe that human life should be taken, you know? Especially not like this. So it's going to be people who agree with that and people who think she got what she deserved. And unfortunately, there's probably 1/3 of the population is just going to think that she got what she deserved. I just can't get behind that personally. I think, I mean, she really posed no threat. She wasn't doing anything. I mean, she didn't deserve to die, you know, and it's just not a good situation. Let's go back to Vance.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you.
Is every person who works at a desk doomed to get a neck hump? Not if you do this thing. I always thought that the weird...
I might want to listen to this ad, guys.
neck hump.
You said earlier that there's a left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and make it impossible for ICE officers to do their job. You told my colleague just now that there's an investigation going on into that network.
Yep.
So if everything that you say is true, how does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car, and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost.
And this is where it's just you either agree with him or you don't. Personally, I disagree. I don't think she was trying to ram him with his car. I think it's very clearly she's sitting there. She was trying to get away. She turns her wheel to the left, backs out, right? So here's the road. I wish I could draw it. I wish I had something to draw on. But, like, she's perpendicular to the road, you know? She's not parallel, perpendicular, right? She backs out to the left or backs back to the left and front to the right. You know what I mean? Out to the left and out to the right. Very clearly trying to get away. Very clearly not trying to hit anyone. Didn't hit anyone. He was out of harm's way, and then he shot her. So I don't agree with that argument. You either do or you don't.
Life, and that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you were penalties that are associated with those violations of the law.
Stutter much?
For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. I'm sorry, guys. What's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened. Next question.
The investigation is still ongoing.
I said next question.
Mr. Vice President, I mean, you presumably
Ooh,
watched
big
the video
man.
yourself. There's not the slightest doubt in your mind, having viewed it, that the victim, you still believe that she deliberately tried to ram him despite seeing this.
That's right. Straight up ask him. Do you really think that she deliberately tried to ram him? I want to see this answer. I think it's very obvious that she was deliberately trying to get away. Trying to run away? I could agree with that. I don't think she was doing nothing, you know, but she posed no threat, and that's the main thing. And an officer, whether it be ICE, whether it be a cop, no matter what, you only pull that gun if you absolutely have to. And then especially you only shoot it if it's the only option. And that was not the only option, you know? And he put himself in that situation. He should not have been in that situation. You never get in front of a car. Especially if you're trying to pull someone out of it. You would never get in front of a car. Like, anyone in their right minds would never, you would never do that. Ask him deliberately, does he actually think that she wanted, or she was trying to hit him with the car? Let's see what he says.
Look, I don't know what is in a person's heart or in a person's head, and obviously we're not going to get the chance to ask this woman what was going on. What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I am certain of is that that officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat for injury or in fact, his life. What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into the guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officer was acting in self-defense. It raises an interesting point, though. Look, if people want to say that we should have a legitimate debate about, you know, what was she really doing, right? Was she panicking when she drove into this officer, or was she actually trying to ram him? That's a reasonable conversation. What's not reasonable is for so many of you to plaster all over the media that this was an innocent woman and that the ICE agent committed murder, which is what many of you have said explicitly and some of you have said implicitly. That's what I have an objection to. The idea that this was not justified is absurd, and I think everybody knows it in their heart.
And that's the reason why we started with that video explaining on the DHS website, the Department of Homeland Security, their policy for officers, and that's do not put yourself in harm's way. It didn't specifically say don't get in front of a car, but I mean, that's common sense. You put yourself in harm's way, and it says do not put yourself in a situation where lethal force, like using a gun, is the only option. That's exactly what he did. And then do not deny medical care to someone who is dying or dead, right? That was a doctor on site. They didn't let him see her. So, you know, I mean, that's against the law, straight up.
Yeah. In the green jacket.
And the fact is he was not in danger. If he truly believes he was in danger, he should be stripped of his badge immediately. He was completely out of the way of the car before he fired. And we will get into that. There's a video that shows the angle which the bullet went through. Actually, let's just look at it real quick, because I think I need to drive this point through. So look at this.
This is for all you propaganda believers that believe lie after.
To shoot from that angle into the window like that. Actually, you're pretty much exactly where the camera is right there. You are not in the way of the car. The bullet gives it away. That is not in harm's way. He was already out of the way and then shot. Right? If the bullet was head on, that would make a lot of sense. You know, if the camera was pointed right at the front of the car and the shot was lined up, that would make sense. Yeah, that's self-defense. This is where it becomes a tough call and a tough decision. Yeah, and you know, like this comment, I don't know if you guys can see the comments, hold on. Yeah, so he continues to shoot as her car is fully turned away from him, right? It's illegal to he said that wrong, but it's illegal to shoot into a vehicle to stop it, which also makes it murder. Also, yeah, he was already out of the way, so what he could have done is shot one of the tires, right? I mean, anyways, watch this video.
Without using common sense. Do you see this? Do you see the bullet hole? That was the first shot. The hole is right there because that piece of shit ICE agent was not in front of her car. His murdering ass was to the side of her vehicle. Just look at the first shot. The Trump administration put out a distorted, AI-generated video to mislead the public.
So, it's very possible this video is AI-generated. This is hearsay, though. We can't say for sure if it's AI-generated. But it does not go with the other video, which was posted as soon as it happened by a person that was there, an eyewitness. Very clear, you know, it doesn't look fake at all, right? It's very clear quality. This is from further away. It's hard to see. You can make out that he gets hit by the car in this video, but it doesn't look at all like the situation from the other angle.
You know this video is...
And remember the smoke that I was talking about. You don't see any smoke. In the first video, you see the smoke from the bullet. In this video, you don't.
...generated because the ICE agent doesn't even have a gun in his hand. Now, how could the ICE agent have...
And yeah, so like... I like how it goes back and forth because it just looks nothing like it. And it doesn't even look like he had his arm out like he had a gun.
...hit if he was to this side.
Looked like he was bracing himself against the car in that video to, like, you know, not get ran over. If he was aiming, he probably... if that was the actual video and he was aiming at and shot, it probably would have gotten ran over because he's too busy trying to shoot her instead of getting out of the way. He very clearly got out of the way and then shot.
Not only that, when the ICE agent shot the first shot, smoke appeared. In the AI-generated video that Trump posted, there's no smoke and no gun in his hand. You would have to be an idiot to believe he was right in front of her car.
So yeah, wheel was already turned. Wheel was already turned. He's already out of the way, and then he shot.
Rest in peace, Renee Nicole Good. Her child's father died in 2023. Her child is now an orphan. Minneapolis paid their respects to Renee. Fuck ICE.
You forget, we cannot have that happen again because we have absolutely nothing to lose at this point.
And there was video of an officer stomping down candles at the vigil, right? And we'll get to that too. I don't know if I have it saved. But yeah, so just more and more and more, right? Here's that angle again. I cannot stand that sound. Anyways, so yeah. I mean, just straight up, I think the videos, it's fishy, right? It's not clear. The other video is very clear that he's not in the way.
It seems like political violence is ratcheting up and riots could be around the corner. What steps does the administration have planned to try to unite America? Average people on both political sides are so tired of fighting with each other, and I think all the journalists in this room could agree with me that we don't want to be part of the problem. Do you have any words to unite America?
Me and my wife go to the gym together, do the same workouts, so why am I losing weight?
You're not.
You know, that was a great question by her. What words does he have to unite America? I actually really want to hear this. Great question. Now, does he say, stop throwing bricks at ICE officers, or does he actually say something worthwhile? Let's see.
No, you don't want to be a part of the problem, and I think that's true of a lot of you. I'm not sure it's true for everybody, because the reporting over this has been one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen in media. I've never seen a case so misrepresented and misreported when you have a guy who is defending himself and is now being treated as some sort of federal assassin.
Her question was, do you have any words to unite America? Not, are you going to argue if they are trying to... So he didn't answer the question, at least not first. Let's see what else.
So many of the people in this room. First of all, let me say about crime. You mentioned violence. One of the things we're proudest about is that you saw violent crime over the last year drop by 20%. Why is that drop by 20%? Is it because we're attacking our law enforcement officers, or is it because we in the administration are empowering our law enforcement officers to enforce the law? I think that's one of the ways you take down the temperature, is you make people feel more secure and safe in their person and property. That's why we care so much about protecting our law enforcement, because it accrues to the benefit of the entire national community. I think that we can absolutely talk about the ways in which, you know, we can lower the temperature by discussing differences in a reasonable and rational way. Again, I'm happy to talk with any congressional Democrat or any of you about our immigration policy, about why I think it's necessary, about why I think it's in the best interest of the country, about why the President of the United States was elected to actually enforce the border for the first time in at least 4 years. So here's the problem. That's not the debate so many people are having. They are actively covering for people who are committing acts of violence against federal law enforcement. It is preposterous. The way to take down the temperature...
What she was doing was not an act of violence.
...is to stop it. Have your debates about policy. Attack me. Attack the President of the United States. Don't attack our law enforcement officers. They are trying to do the job the American people demanded that...
People are allowed to protest. I don't know how else to put it. Yes, throwing bricks is wrong. That didn't happen. That did not happen. No one was shooting. The only violence came from the officers. The only violence of that particular situation. She asked if Vance had anything to say to unite the American people. And he basically said, don't attack our officers, and we're all good, right? So, a good thing to say would have been, this is a life lost. We all feel bad about it. We all bleed the same. If it happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. Let's unite. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like, there's so many better things to say than that, but that's not going to unite anyone, dude. Like,
they are not policy actors. They are enforcing the law. They should be treated with a modicum of dignity and respect, and the fact that they're not is why incidents like yesterday happened. The one final point I'll make about this is...
Yeah, because they get their egos bruised, and then they can, you know, drag you out of the car and pepper spray you or shoot you, you know? I mean, because their egos are bruised, because people don't respect them. You know? You don't have to respect law enforcement. You don't have to, you know? You shouldn't be violent. That is true. But right there, you kind of just said it. I mean, their egos get bruised because they get insulted. They're not respected. And what have they done to command respect? What have they done that deserves respect? You know, I mean, they've detained 175 American citizens, possibly more. The veterans, literal combat veterans who were shot, Purple Hearts, detained for days, pepper sprayed, not allowed to shower, no food, no water. I'm not sure about the no food, no water for that particular situation, but that is something that happened. In that particular situation with the combat veteran with the Purple Heart, he was not allowed to shower for 3 days, and he had pepper spray chemicals all over him. That's unacceptable. You don't deserve respect when you treat people like that, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, if you want respect, be respectable.
There's a part of me that feels very, very sad for this woman, not just because she lost her life, but because I think she is a victim of left-wing ideology. What young mother shows up and decides they're going to throw their car in front of ICE officers who are enforcing legitimate law? You've got to be a little brainwashed to get to that point to where you're willing, not just to protest, that's fine, not peacefully protest, but throw your vehicle in front of legitimate law enforcement officers and drive your car into them.
He's using very exaggerated language. I would agree that, yeah, she should have been home with her kids, for sure, 100%. I keep seeing, some say she has 1 kid, some say she has 3, but I say kids just in case. Pretty sure she has 3 kids. Those kids are orphans now. At least one of them is, because, the dad, an orphan, doesn't have parents anymore.
To where you're willing, not just to protest, that's fine, not peacefully protest, but throw your vehicle in front of legitimate law enforcement officers and drive your car into them.
That's not what happened. I mean, she was parked. It looked like she was blocking the road, yes. That would be a peaceful protest, though. That wasn't, as cars are coming, drive in front of them. Cars parked, go around. It wasn't even blocking the whole road either. So it kind of makes you think, So very exaggerated language, like this is something that, this is something that Trump would criticize liberals for, to just being dramatic and over-exaggerating things. That's what you're doing. They're playing the games, and hyperbole. They're using hyperbole. I mean, that's not professional, and it doesn't deserve respect either. I don't respect J.D. Vance, and I don't respect Donald Trump because they are not respectable people. And I would say the same thing about Biden and Kamala for sure. There's only a maybe not even a handful of politicians that actually deserve respect. Thomas Massey, first one that comes to mind, someone that would deserve respect. Other than that, I'd really have to think about it. They're crooks. They're a brood of vipers, serpents. I mean, sorry, I heard something.
To that point, you have to be, I think, radicalized in a very, very sad way. I certainly wish that she hadn't got there. I know there's an ICE officer right now who very much wishes he was not put in the position where he had to fire a gun to defend his own life.
I'm about to reveal a snoring fix that most women over 40 don't know. This is what your throat looks like when you're snoring.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. What's your message, following up on that, what's your message to the leaders in Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, to calm down the situation on the ground, on the streets? What's your message also to those protesters who saw that video in a completely different way than you saw that video?
Well, first of all, I think if you watch every angle of that video, there is one angle where if you squint, you can maybe tell yourself that it's not clear what happened. But when you look at all angles of that video, it is very clear that her vehicle went right for the guy. She actually collided with him. And then that's, of course, when he fired his shots. That's obvious, okay? So what I'd say to the protesters is, by all means, protest peacefully, but make this about ideas. Make this about disagreement with our policy. Don't use your protest as a justification or an encouragement for people to go and incite violence and participate in violence against our law enforcement officials. To the people on the ground in Minneapolis, meaning the local officials in Minneapolis from Tim Walz on down, I'd say, look, why can't you just disagree with a given piece of immigration policy without turning law enforcement into the enemy? And think about, for example, a criminal law where a police officer goes and arrests somebody because they violated a criminal law. If you're mad about that, go and protest the politician who passed that law. Don't attack the police officer who's just doing their job. We had a wide open border under Joe Biden. I happen to think it's a good thing the President of the United States has closed it down. If you think that's a bad idea, criticize this administration for a policy decision. Don't attack our people for enforcing the law, because I guarantee you go to ICE, there are black people and white people, there are Democrats and Republicans, they are patriotic Americans who are trying to enforce the law. Attack me.
Maybe I have a rare stance. Maybe it's rare, but the border should be closed. So yeah, that's good. What's not good is the human rights violations, I believe it, unlawful use of force. I mean, you listen to this guy long enough, you start to see why people believe him, because you repeat a lie long enough, you start to believe it, and I just can't see the video like that. I'm sorry. I see it didn't collide with him. It just didn't. He stepped out of the way and then he shot. I mean, plain and simple. And I mean, even if it didn't happen before she hit him. So let's say she hit him, right? She hit him, he's fine, and then he shoots. It would be different if it was before she hit him and then shot. That would be self-defense. If she's coming for him and she hasn't, it's like, oh, it's about to happen, boom, that would be self-defense. Or as he's being hit, he shoots. But even if he was hit, let's just say, let's agree with that, the other video that's unclear and very, hard to look at, only has like 4 pixels in it. He braces himself against the car, it looks like. Then it goes, to the left of him. He's unharmed and shoots. So braces the car, which doesn't look like there's a gun in his hand, mind you. Somehow grabs the gun and shoots. Or let's just say there's a gun in his hand. Let's say the camera was too blurry to see it. He braces himself against the car. It goes past him, and then he shoots. He is out of harm's way, and then he shoots. I don't think that that's lawful. I don't think that's all right. I think that is a violation for sure.
Lay off of our ICE agents. Yeah, in the blue, all the way, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice President. You called on Tim Walz to resign. Can you lay out the case as to why he should step down?
Well, look, I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about the fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about the welfare fraud, or at the very least he looked the other way. I mean, this is not like Lex Luthor.
And those are all true. Those are all true. Tim Walz is not a good governor, from what I've seen. He very clearly was letting fraud around. There's a video of him, like, from his office on Twitter or something, replacing the Minnesota flag with the Somalian flag, which is just crazy, saying it's the new flag of Minnesota or something like that. Tim Walz is not a good governor, in my opinion. He probably should resign. Does that mean that he was wrong in this situation, saying, what happened? You know what I mean?
Right? This is not movie villain fraud. This is the lowest IQ possible fraud. This is, we're going to take the absence of kids and set up a daycare center where there are no children, and we're going to call our early childhood education center the Quality Learning Center. By the way, if you can't spell learning, maybe you shouldn't be in early childhood education. But people got rich off of this. We know that there were schools who either had no enrollment or at least they overstated their enrollment. Tim Walz, either it was unbelievable incompetence or he was in on the fraud. That's one of the things we're going to get to the bottom of.
Most people over 40 will enter 2026 still using ChatGPT like Google. Don't be one.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Can you explain the difference between this Associate Attorney General and a special counsel? And do you envision this being a permanent position or having more of a limited scope?
Well, it's going to be permanent until we get to the bottom of what's going on, so I think it's going to last for at least the remainder of the administration. What's different about it from a special counsel is, if you remember, the Jack Smith case where the special counsel was found unconstitutional, one of the big issues there is that that person was not an appointed person, completely aside from all the other issues that the person was a lunatic and that the case had no merit. There was a fundamental constitutional issue, which is that he had not been appointed by the president and he had not been confirmed by the United States Senate. An assistant attorney general, what that's going to allow us to do is appoint this person, have them confirmed by the Senate. That's one difference. The more substantive difference is that this person is going to be part of a very broad interagency White House that's being led from the President of the United States on down. And that's going to give them the resources, the access to material and information to make this person more effective. I think a lot of people have asked, how are you really going to get to the heart of the fraud? We've been asking ourselves that question for the past couple of months, and we think this is the critical piece at the Department of Justice to really ramp this fraud investigation into high gear. In the red tie, yeah.
Vice President Vance, I wanted to ask, what's your message to far leftist agitators who feel emboldened to obstruct ICE activity in Minnesota and around the country?
Well, I think they shouldn't feel emboldened because now they have an assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate their fraud and their violence more aggressively than it has ever been investigated in the United States of America. We are doing so much to try to find the financing networks and the domestic terrorism networks that legitimate this violence, that fund this violence, and that, of course, engage in the violence. These people should not feel emboldened because they have, for the first time, maybe in American history, an administration that is not going to tolerate political violence of any kind from anywhere. Yeah.
We not clear today that the entire weight of the federal government is behind these ICE agents and this ICE agent in particular. There is still a federal investigation happening on the ground. Does that mean that they are not looking into this ICE agent at all? They are just focused on the woman who was in the car? What is the investigation if the federal government has already determined that its weight is behind this ICE investigation?
So what do you mean? When you say investigation, do you mean investigation of the shooting yesterday or of the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis?
Yesterday.
Okay, look, DHS, as I understand it, has an investigation already ongoing. I know that other organs of our government are looking at this. So, yes, there is certainly an investigation that's happening right now. But as part of the broader fraud investigation, a lot of what we're doing with the Department of Justice has already started.
She just said she didn't ask about the fraud. I know you really want to talk about the fraud, but she didn't ask.
Over 1,500 subpoenas. We've got people this morning, actually. We're going door to door to actually knock on some of these fraudulent care centers, these fraudulent social services organizations to get to the bottom of what's going on there. So the investigation in some ways has already been ramping up into the anti-fraud element for at least a few weeks. What we're trying to do is supercharge it and make sure there's a designated person within the Department of Justice who completely controls that particular focus.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, Mr. Vice President, on the agent, is he still on duty or has he been placed on leave, on administrative leave? And what really was the target of the operation on Wednesday? ICE operation on Wednesday?
Well, first of all, it was a legitimate law enforcement operation. We were going door to door to try to find criminal illegal aliens and deport them from the United States of America, because if you come to our country illegally in violation of our immigration laws, then we have the mandate, and in fact we have the legal duty to enforce those immigration laws. Whether he's been placed on administrative leave, I don't know the answer to that question. I'd refer it to the Department of Homeland Security, and they can follow up. I will say, look, I would appreciate everybody saying a prayer for that agent. Look, in the past 6 months, he has been hit twice by a motor vehicle. One time, the first time, it led to over 30 stitches and very serious injuries to his legs. This is a guy who's actually done a very, very important job for the United States of America. He's been assaulted, he's been attacked, he's been injured because of it. He deserves a debt of gratitude, and I think the media prejudging and talking about this guy as if he's a murderer is one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen from the American media. Yeah.
Vice President, what is your specific role in the future of Venezuela? And I'm wondering, could you confirm reports that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was kept out of the planning for the operations because of her past concerns about military involvement in Venezuela?
So I've heard a couple of things. One, that I was kept out of the planning for the Venezuela operation, that's false. And another, that Tulsi was kept out of the planning for Venezuela operations, that's completely false. Look, we're all part of the same team. And one of the things that is really amazing about that operation is that we kept it very tight to the senior cabinet level officials and related officials in our government. And we kept this, I think.
Okay, did y'all see that cut?
Senior cabinet level officials and related officials in our government, and we kept this. I think it suggests that the team.
What did he say that they don't want us to know? That was weird. That was a cut. Regardless, they're talking about Venezuela now, which is, I mean, just as important. This is a lot of shit. I mean, I don't know if it's actually, I think this might be more important because this is American soil. But, I mean, it's almost over. Let's just see what else he has to say.
Works very well together. Well, looking ahead, what is my role? Look, my role is going to be whatever the president asks me to do.
That's
well,
right.
Every single, or I should say,
That's
every
right,
other
boy.
day, I'm chairing the.
That's right, boy. Do what Daddy Trump tells you to do. whatever the have y'all seen the new South Park, guys? The way they portray Vance is pretty comical. But anyways.
Meeting that we do on this among White House principals to talk about next steps to try to ensure that Venezuela is stable, and as the president has directed us to do, to ensure that the new Venezuelan government actually listens to the United States and does what the United States needs it to do under our country's best interest. So I'm going to be as involved as the president wants me to be. So far, that's been very involved, and I'll keep on doing that so long as the president asks me to do it. The purple.
Yes. Even beyond the war powers
Sorry,
resolution.
we'll go purple and then we'll go pink or whatever that is in front.
Royal purple. And then beige.
All right.
Okay.
Are there any indications, you talked about the network, are there any indications that the lady who was shot, I know there are different reports from there, her wife said they were new to the area. Are there any indications she may have been a paid agitator, and maybe that there are others that were brought to the area, considering everything that's going on in Minneapolis?
I wouldn't say that she was paid. I don't have the evidence to say that one way or the other. What I do know is that she was violating the law. And if you just look at the eyewitness accounts, they were saying she was there to prevent the enforcement of the law. She was trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. That much is obviously clear. The rest of it, of course, is part of the reason why we investigate this stuff. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, even beyond the war powers resolution today, Congress has bucked President Trump on issues like tariffs. Are you concerned that President Trump is losing his grip on Republicans in the Congress, and what are you going to do about it?
No, I'm not concerned at all. First of all, we talked to some of the senators who were going to vote the wrong way, in my view, on this resolution today. Much of their argument was based more on a legal technique.
Okay, I don't think he's going to say anything of value. This is Kristi Noem. She's the head of the Department of Homeland Security, or ICE. She's the head of ICE. South Park actually did quite a number on her too, but it's 8 minutes long. Before we get into the other stuff, I want to see what she has to say.
Off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city. We should all work together to protect our citizens. We should all protect the men and the women and the families who live here in Minneapolis, who live in Minnesota, and live throughout this entire country. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for focusing on the important work that our federal officers do and make sure that we're focused on the priorities of this country, and that's making sure that we're keeping people safe. With that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Secretary, no, Mayor Fry called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that?
I say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations.
You know what?
Our officer followed.
We've heard enough from this side. Let's see what the mayor of Minneapolis has to say. Minneapolis mayor.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. There's a lot of information that is swirling around right now, and we collectively are going to do everything possible to get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. We've dreaded this moment since the...
Okay. This sign language girl, or person, I'm not an expert, but is the facial expressions, are they necessary? I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to be rude. It's kind of distracting.
Stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying.
I gotta say, I agree that he was recklessly using power. 100%. 100%, yeah.
Killed. As soon as it happened and we learned of the incident, we had several priorities. The first, of course, was to get the victim to the hospital and to get care as soon as possible. To the family, I'm so deeply sorry. There's nothing that I can say right now that's going to make you or your relatives or the friends of the victim feel any better. There were, I believe, 2 Minneapolis police officers that responded and were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The second was to get ICE off of the scene. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of ICE and federal officers that were there at the time. Having them there was only causing more chaos. Having them there was only making a difficult situation even more problematic, and one that, yes, they created themselves. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped up.
Regardless of if you agree with him or not, as the mayor of a city, he should be allowed to... the state should have more power than the federal government, in the sense of the federal government has overstepped way too far. He should have the right to tell them to get out. That should be allowed. And Tim Walz, as the governor of Minneapolis, should have the right, or Minnesota, should have the right to tell ICE to get out of Minnesota. That should be allowed. The federal government has overstepped way too far.
Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave. It's on you to make sure that further damage, further loss of life and injury is not done. We're going to be working towards justice as quickly as we possibly can right now, and justice is what we've all got to get. Next, a message to our community. Look, we all know that the agenda of this Trump administration is to create chaos. Let us respond right now with our best versions of self. This is a moment where all of us in Minneapolis and beyond, we can rise to the occasion. We can show them who we are. We can show them the kind of courage, bravery, love, and compassion that makes Minneapolis, Minneapolis, and that makes America, America. We are better than a bunch of ICE agents being deployed to cities around the country and ripping apart families and communities. We're better than that. And so we are going to meet that hate with love. We are going to meet that despair with hope. We are going to meet that injustice with constitutional justice ourselves. And we're going to make sure that in this very difficult moment, we do not take the bait that these ICE agents are trying to create and that the federal government, to be clear, wants.
Guys, I will say this. I think it's very clear Trump is looking for an excuse to institute martial law. And if there's martial law, and that's also another reason Venezuela happened too, because if the country's in war, no elections, Trump can remain president, right? Martial law is another thing. There's literally, he was talking with Zelensky about it whenever he met with him, the president or minister of Ukraine or whatever, the leader of Ukraine. And Zelensky was explaining, like, yeah, if there's a war, there's no elections until the war is over. And Trump was like, oh, really? So you're saying if I start a war, I'll still be president? And Zelensky was like, you like that idea, don't you? And they laughed about it. Trump was like, yeah, I like that idea. Another excuse for staying in office would be martial law. And if you guys don't know, martial law is whenever the government, first of all, National Guard's going to be at your door. So National Guard all over the cities, people with machine guns on the corner of every street, pretty much. That's martial law. Let's actually look it up. Let's look up the definition of martial law real quick, guys. What it is no bueno. It's unacceptable. Martial law. Oh, sorry, I spelled it wrong. Martial law. The temporary imposition of military rule over civilian population, typically during extreme emergencies like war, rebellion, or disaster, when civil authorities can't maintain order, suspending normal laws and civil liberties like free speech movement, and granting military commanders temporary broad powers to enforce power or enforce order, often involving curfews, media blackouts, and military tribunals, though it's rare in the U.S. and subject to constitutional limits. The president can declare it, governors can declare it, local commanders in very limited circumstances. It might impose it. Yeah, okay. So, has martial law ever been declared in the United States? Limited number of circumstances, such as New Orleans during the Battle of New Orleans, the Great Chicago Fire. So, riots, it has happened at least 68 times. That would be funny. The next time it happens is going to be 69, and it's probably going to happen when Trump does it. Regardless, they want an insurrection, right? So it would be better to remain peaceful in this situation. Peaceful protests, you know.
A CBS News investigation has uncovered.
If you look at the people who actually voted,
make the change. Make your change. You know, I don't think it's time for a revolt, is what I would say. That's my opinion, though.
They want us to respond in a way that creates a military occupation.
Yeah, right. See, right there. I mean, this is true. This is what they want.
City. They want an excuse to come in and show the kind of force that will create more chaos and more despair. Let's not let them. Let's rise to this occasion. Let's show them something far more beautiful than the kind of division that they're trying to stoke. Let's show them unity of purpose, of love, and the courage of our conviction.
See, I gotta say, remember whenever they asked Vance what were his words to unify the American people? These are the words that would unify American people. If anyone obviously get the fuck out of Minneapolis, like that's pretty divisive, right? But this particular, let's unite with love. Let's show them who we are. Let's give our best character. Like this is uniting language. Let's run that back. This is what unites people. Because the reality is we all bleed the same. We're all the same people. Unite, peace, and peace. I mean, I hate to sound like a hippie, but peace and love. I mean, straight up. Watch.
The vision that they're trying to stoke. Let's show unity.
Yeah. Boom. Based.
Than the kind of division that they're trying to stoke. Show them something far more beautiful than the kind of division that they're trying to stoke. Let's show them unity.
Let's show them something far more beautiful than the division they're trying to stoke. Let's show them unity.
Of purpose, of love, and the courage of our conviction. Our conviction, to be clear, is rock solid, and it is for our neighbors, all of our neighbors. It's for people who have lived here for 80 years. It is for new immigrants who have made this city a better place. That's the kind of love that we're going to show up with right now. If you're angry, I get it. I am too.
Also, I believe it should be up to the state whether they allow immigrants or not. I don't think it should be a federal thing. I think, like, for example, California, has the most illegal immigrants. And obviously California, it's not going too hot for them. There is a lot of crime and a lot of problems with that, but that's their choice, you know. And Minnesota, you know, he says that they're making life better, right? I haven't heard any Minnesotans coming out and saying that these immigrants have to be stopped. You know, maybe there are some, but I haven't heard any. And the truth is it should be up to Minnesota whether they want immigrants. He says that they have made life better. It should be up to them. People in Minnesota aren't going to affect people in other states, in my opinion.
You're feeling that kind of despair. It's understandable. Let's show them who we can be. Let's show up with peace. To march, to protest, to hug one another, to love all the way with peace. Do not give them what they want.
In my point of view, this is a federal power argument, okay? I strongly disagree with this, and also it's about human life. You know, that's the most important thing. It's about human life. Secondarily, though, it's about federal power. The federal government should not have the power that it does. The founding fathers didn't make this country that way. They actually, there was big arguments between federalists and non-federalists, and the non-federalists won. The federal government should be very minimal, very small amount of power. Literally, we can get into a big history lesson, maybe not tonight, but the states should hold the power and decide what goes on in their state. That's what makes them states. That's what makes us different than every other country, every other place. Oh, that's what's supposed to make us different. Now we're pretty much the same.
Make it a habit. 7 minutes
Dude, I'm not doing Tai Chi.
Chi every morning, all the way for 1 month.
Finally, you know, we've got a lot of work that needs to happen right now to make sure that, first, of course, the scene was secured as much as possible, that we were able to get the victim, now deceased, to the hospital. We've got a lot of work to do in the coming days. I want to thank our city enterprise for the work that they have done, but more importantly, what they're about to do, because this is going to be heavy and our city has been through a lot. We also know that we're prepared to do right for people. Among them is our chief of police. I'll invite him up.
My name is Brian O'Hara, BRIANO''HARA. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. This morning, Minneapolis police officers received a report of federal law enforcement being involved in a deadly force incident, meaning shots had been fired. Minneapolis police officers responded to the scene. We arrived and found a woman with a gunshot wound to the head. Life-saving measures were performed at the scene, including CPR. The woman was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center, where she has since been pronounced deceased. The preliminary information that we have indicates that this woman was in her vehicle and was blocking the roadway on Portland Avenue, midway between 33rd Street and 34th Street in the city. At some point, a federal law enforcement officer approached her on foot, and the vehicle began to drive off. At least 2 shots were fired.
Okay, this is explaining what happened. I don't think a police chief's going to give his opinion. Is it still live? Are we still live? So that right there, that's an ICE agent. He's Asian, you know what I mean? And Vance is right that it's not just whites that are ICE, but I don't think that matters, you know. But let's see, we're live. Alright, this isn't beneficial. Let's see. New details. We've already kind of gone over that. Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta pee. Gotta pee really bad, so I'm actually gonna save this image. That's funny. But just so you know, we're on a pee break, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. All right. Okay. All right. So just to recap. Quick recap. We watched the video. Obviously, I want you guys to form your own opinions. From my perspective, the self-defense argument, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. One thing I think we can all agree on, though, or we should all be able to agree on, is that this is, at the very least, manslaughter, right? At the very least, he was out of harm's way when he shot her. At the very least, if he didn't shoot her, he would have been fine. The only life that was lost or really in danger was hers. This is blatant abuse of power, in my opinion. Also, I believe that the Trump administration, is lying to our faces about this. One, with the possibly edited video, I think it looks edited. It's very unclear. The video that is more clear is what we should pay more attention to. The video that an eyewitness posted immediately as it happened, where he very clearly stepped out of the way. You can also see the picture of the bullet hole in the glass. Very clearly shot from the side of the car, not head on. Okay? So that's that, right? So we all agree, or even if you don't agree, I'm just going to say, so ICE agent has killed a woman. Manslaughter, murder, whatever you want to call it, has killed a woman when it didn't have to happen. It wasn't the only option. Her children are orphaned. That's a family ruined, right? Minnesota and Minneapolis do not want ICE in Minnesota and Minneapolis. The mayor doesn't want them. The governor doesn't want them. Regardless of if the mayor or governor are good, they are elected officials and they are in charge of that state and that territory or that city, and they should be able to make that decision and decide, no, we don't want ICE here. Now that's we're getting into federal power arguments, but just to recap, that is what happened. That is the news. Where do we go from here? I was honestly surprised that the riots were as peaceful as they were. I mean, throwing snowballs, and I think it's because it happened in a liberal state. Heavily. Is Minnesota gun control? Let's look it up. Let me look it up for you guys real quick. Gun control. Okay, let's pull this up for you guys. Yes, Minnesota has gun control laws, particularly strengthened recently with measures like universal background checks. Hold on. Universal background checks, an extreme risk protection order or red flag law, and permits to purchase/carry handguns, but it's considered a state with moderate to strong gun laws. That's still navigating ongoing debates. Okay. A permit to purchase is needed for handguns, and a permit to carry is required. So you have to have a permit to buy a pistol. Extreme risk law allows temporary removal of firearms from individuals deemed a danger to themselves or others, so they can take away your gun. Domestic abuse restricts gun access for individuals under restraining orders. Secure storage or child access prevention is required. Prohibited locations like courthouses and state buildings, that's pretty normal law. Some cities like St. Paul have passed local ordinances banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Real quick, Minneapolis, because that's where it happened. Minneapolis. Minneapolis does not have independent city-level gun control laws in effect due to a state preemption law. So it's not stricter than the rest of Minnesota, but still universal background checks required for all handgun and long guns. So every gun then, I would say. A permit to carry and a permit to buy, a permit to purchase. Prohibitions for domestic abusers. How many people in Minnesota own guns? Or how many people in Minneapolis? How many people in Minneapolis. Oops. Own guns. 40%? It's higher than I thought. So that actually makes it better. So maybe they could revolt if they want, if, you know, I mean, they have the means, but they're not. And the mayor of Minneapolis actually did really well, I think. Besides cussing, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess, but I would say that's unprofessional. Regardless, though, that's not the main thing. What's important is his words were powerful, to unite with purpose and love, and at the end of the day, it's a federal power argument. Do you believe that the federal government should have that amount of power or not? You know, don't fall into the left versus right bullshit. It's more human rights versus not human rights. You know, I believe every human being should be treated with dignity, and obviously criminals should be dealt with, but one, I don't know if I would call that woman a criminal. And also, it's true that it's illegal to fire at a suspect that's you can't just shoot at a suspect that's fleeing, right? So, we established that she clearly was not trying to hit him, and she didn't hit him. Actually, let's not even say if she was trying to hit him or not. She didn't hit him, right? That's what I came to the conclusion of. But I guess I will say that the American people, you know, we all believe the same. We all, at the end of the day, we want the same thing, and that's just for everyone to be happy, healthy, you know. I don't know. I honestly don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what we should do. I would tend to agree with the mayor of Minneapolis, though, in the sense of it would be better to just unite with purpose and peace, love, you know, go hug your neighbor, you know, let's build up our communities. Let's get stronger. Let's quit dividing ourselves based off left and right. You know, once again, I say this in almost every stream. It's us versus them, you know. Us, the people, versus them. And them does not just mean Trump and Vance. It means all the corrupt politicians. Left or right doesn't matter. We need to stop dividing left and right. That's pretty much what has caused all the problems in this nation. Instead, let's focus on uniting as a people, building up our communities, do what we can on a local level. You know, obviously none of us are going to be able to be president probably and, you know, just change everything like that. That's not how it's going to work, you know. But what can work is, Vance did say, bring it to the ballot, and that's what we need to do. We need to bring this to the ballot. We need to vote about it. And specifically, not just vote about it, but also be an activist about it. Like, spread the word about things. Increase your knowledge. Fact check everything. Look things up, you know. I think hear from your girlfriend's live, showing support. Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, so I think left versus right, that whole division thing, that's what they want us to do. They want us to fight. We need to be better than that. We need to decide, hey, we're not just going to fight over these these squabbles that don't even matter. Instead, let us come together, and it's us versus them. It's us versus the elite. Now, one thing I do want to mention, now that we've gotten that out of the way, ICE is trained by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. And that brings me to our next topic of the night, which is investigating Israeli influence on U.S. politics. But maybe we should save it. Maybe we should save it. Tell you what, guys, a lot of stuff has happened in the past few weeks. You know, we have Epstein's list, Venezuela, invasion, and then this, right? So the Epstein list is about the corrupt politicians who are pedophiles, who diddle kids, and Epstein's list was supposed to be released. FBI had a special redaction project, which they worked overtime to try to redact all the files, and even then, some slipped through and showed. I mean, Trump literally. I mean, let's look up unredacted Trump files. Unredacted Epstein files. Well, here's this. So, Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported. He is listed on a passenger on at least 8 flights, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. Oh, wait. Can you guys see? Sorry. Have a blessed day. You too, man. Take it easy. Bless you. Yes, I did. Well, yeah, these are, I can't even see them. Well, let's see. Some Epstein file redactions are being undone with hacks, right? Okay. Will you, like, show what actually happened? Also, it's really not hacking either. All they did was, like, yeah, copy and paste into word processing. I wouldn't call that hacking. Let's see if we can zoom in or something. Am I not allowed to zoom in on this? Okay. Let's try to find it elsewhere then. Let's see, unredacted Epstein files. So one thing that happened, and it's just weird, is that, the Epstein files happened. They were supposed to release them all, and they all ended up looking like this. Just sheets of black paper, right? And you can go to the DOJ, or the Department of Justice, and look up the Epstein files, and this is what you'll see. This is the pages printed out. Just blackness, right? That's what we see. And it's actually kind of funny. Not funny, it's actually really tragic and sad, but you scroll through and all you see is just black. And it's kind of crazy. And so some people on social media have found ways to unredact it and basically just copy and pasting the text. It's kind of sad, or, can't be for sure, but Epstein note signature compares. So, message for Epstein's birthday book. Looks the exact same. Letters sent about a charity donation in 2000. New York court documents. Executive order in 2025. Okay, so that one looks different, but when it's just signed Donald, that's his signature for that. Regardless, so the Epstein files were supposed to be released, and then this happened, and then there was a massive court, a deadline for, they were supposed to explain why all the files were redacted or something, and they missed the deadline. And then so on the day that the deadline happened, they invaded Venezuela, right? And then so we all know what happened there. I went over it in the last stream. Venezuela got invaded. We were already started taking their oil. We captured their president, which, regardless of if he's a dictator or not, doesn't matter. We shouldn't be involved in that at all, in my opinion. So that's that, right? And then this happens, and it seems like a constant distraction from the most important thing, and it's what we're not realizing, is our country's ran by pedophiles, and I just, it's hard to sleep at night thinking, when you know that, and there's a meme that goes around, and it's like, knowing, nothing makes you feel more insane than knowing at 4 things that the government has done, like the FBI and CIA and just all the horrible things they've done. I mean, we are the terrorists. Venezuela has proven that, and ICE has proven that. We're committing domestic terrorism on our own people. I mean, she was not throwing bricks. She was not in the way. She didn't deserve to die, and he did not have to shoot her, but he did. Whether it was premeditated, I will leave that up to a jury. But either way, it was an unjustifiable killing, in my opinion. Just black Epstein files. Gotta check it out. Actually, matter of fact, let's look it up right now. Let's look up Department of Justice Epstein files. Epstein's library. Court records. DOJ disclosures. Is that it? First phase of declassified Epstein files. Let's see, view files. Is it gonna make me view them one by one? That is so stupid. Okay, these are pictures and stuff. Hold on. I know you guys can't see. I'm just trying to find the papers. Let's see, is this it? Flight log. Contact book redacted. So yeah, so this is some of it. Heavily redacted. Guys, just go ahead and this is on the Department of Justice website, and you can go through this yourself. But heavily redacted. Pretty much can't really see anything out of it. All these are names, right? So all this black is names, and they're only giving us like 1% of the names who are in here. And it's in alphabetical order. Think about how many people. We're still on B. We've been through like 5 pages already. Okay? Still on B. Still on. Okay, now we got to C. Alright, here we are in D. Now, it's last name, first name, right? Like Doll, Sophie. Yeah, so let's go to Trump then. Let's go all the way down to T. Scroll all the way down. We're on S. Let's see. S. All these names are redacted, right? Okay. T-A. T-H. T-O. P-Q. Ivana Trump. Ivanka Trump. What? Right there. And in between 2 Trumps, there's a name redacted. That's crazy. Okay, guys. What the fuck? So, Ivana Trump and Ivanka Trump are contact lists on the... Are these the flight logs? What is this? Before I freak out. So, but just to clarify, I mean, everybody sees that. Okay, now let's double check. Are these the contact lists? Or the flight log or what? Okay. Phone book 2004, 2005. Okay, so no, this is just okay. I take it back, guys. It's not as bad as we thought. Still, you know, it's just a contact book, and everything that's redacted are the numbers and emails and such. So that's not what we're looking for yet. Contact book redacted, flight log. Man, to be honest, guys, I cannot read this. Oh, so LM, we're looking for DT then, huh? JE's Jeffrey Epstein. JE. Evidence list? Oh, so this is just explaining. Ugh. So gross. I'm gonna find it. Okay. Let's look at this one. So I'm not seeing all black, but at least I'm seeing, I mean, I am seeing a bunch of names blacked out, so that's not good. Let's go back to blacked out Epstein files. Over 500 pages in initial Epstein files release were entirely blacked out. Let's see. So the DOJ, why was the DOJ allowed to redact Epstein files? So the reason why I'm bringing this up, guys, is because I feel like it's all kind of, they're distracting us, right? So ICE has done this before, is what I'm saying. I mean, this is kind of a little bit further than what they've done, but stuff like this has already happened. The reason why it's being covered so heavy right now is, and the same reason why Venezuela, you know, I feel like it's to kind of cover up against this, to make people forget about this. The one thing we can't do is forget that, you know, Donald Trump is a pedophile. J.D. Vance, I don't know about J.D. Vance actually, but there's other stuff with Peter Thiel with him. Let's not get into that. But, you know, Donald Trump is a pedophile. Left and right, Democrats and Republicans, they are pedophiles. They were on Epstein's list, you know. There's a reason why they're working so hard to not show us. FBI worked day and night. Okay, I don't want to hear you talk about it. I want to see the files. Case 2030-61, document 17. But like this guy right here, Jeffrey Epstein, right? You know, there's been tons of memes about it. Everyone's kind of desensitized to the fact. But let's not forget that this man regularly trafficked and assaulted and abused underage women, underage girls, probably boys too. And he also had connections with Mossad and Israel. And it very clearly was a plot to a honeypot operation to get all the people in power in America, all the rich, all the elite, all the government officials to, you know, have undying allegiance to Israel. Because if not, then they're going to release these files on them and say, oh, well, hey, this guy's a pedophile, you know. And obviously no one likes that. So that's, you know, it's going to end someone's career. Here's this. So apparently Chicago police got tear gassed by ICE.
When protesters confronted federal immigration agents in Brighton Park on Saturday, they were met with pepper balls and more repression. CPD responded to attempt to de-escalate the situation, and ICE tear gassed our police officers. Let me be clear. Tear gassing the women and men who serve as Chicago Police Department officers is not how we make our city safer. I'm calling for a full investigation into this incident and into all of the brutality that we have seen over the past week. They are taking police resources that should be in our neighborhoods, serving Chicagoans, and diverting them to deal with the chaos that they are causing. We need ICE out of our city so that we can continue to focus on the strategies that have been working to drive violent crime down.
So yeah, I mean, this is just happening. You know, I mean, there's really. Let's see this.
Mayor Fry called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that?
I say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his fellow law enforcement officers.
Secretary, can you expand too on the agent's injuries? The president said that he's lucky to be alive.
The officer was hit by the vehicle. She hit him. He went to the hospital. A doctor did treat him. He has been released, but he's going to spend some time with his family.
Can you clarify whether he was hit before or after the gunshots were fired?
I can't, but the FBI will continue the investigation and release more facts when it's appropriate.
Secretary, no, has the agent been relieved of his duty, or can you give us any other?
No, we're following the standard protocol procedures we do in situations like this.
This is the gap between what the video shows, what some local authorities have said, and how Noam just responded. She has made several statements today that don't match the evidence in the video that we have. The baseline here is a debate about whether this was lawful action. The government is trying to defend what the ICE agent did, but doing so in a manner that actually is straining credibility. This is not a story that's going to go away in a day or two. There is a legal process. We heard from the top law enforcement official of Minnesota tonight that they will also do a local investigation and try to figure out what happened and whether this was merited. As for the more simple misleading claim by Noam that this is following the training, that is false. Whether or not it's a crime is a much more complex investigation. But law enforcement officials in the United States are trained only to use force as a last resort, or this deadly force, and only to use deadly force when they face the threat of deadly force or serious bodily injury. That is not exactly what the video shows. And the training on shooting into moving vehicles is also that is to be limited. If the officer had no belief that there were weapons inside the car, training would go against, not for, that use of force.
So, yep. She's lying. And then, here's this.
Hey, we're breaking fuck the news. I want to give you guys an update. There's a video.
1 second, guys. All right.
Of the physician that was trying to assist the woman who was pew-pewed in the head multiple times by ICE. Fun fact, everybody. That parking spot she was sitting in, was her house. The video that I'm talking about, there's a woman recording, and she goes, "I'm not going to calm down. You just shot my fucking neighbor." So that street, that house, that where that woman was parked, she wasn't chasing them. They asked her to move her vehicle, and she has pretty much said, "Fuck y'all, go around. This is my house. This is my street. I live here." They killed that woman in front of her fucking house, bro.
Now, obviously, we don't know if this is 100% true. But I'm leaning towards it being true. Eyewitnesses, you know, you can't eyewitnesses, I mean, they can be false, but, you know, opens fire into a car full of kids. So, those are pepper bullets, you know, it's not real bullets, but still. Kids in the car, pepper bullets. Kind of crazy.
I got kids in my car! I got kids in my car! That's on the vehicle!
Tengo a mis hijos. Llama al 661-803-81. I warned you. 81-23. I got kids in my car. I warned you. I got kids in my car. I have kids in my car. I'm not moving. We're just trying to help the girls. I'm just trying to help.
And oh, and yeah, here's this. So Donald Trump posted, "If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter."
A few moments later.
And then here's this that we saw earlier. You know, he's lucky to be alive, and very clearly a different resolve. You know, she was a bystander, a legal observer, I would say. That's what it seemed like to me. But you know, let's see. And here's that angle. Here's that angle that shows that she was hit. And right, so people are seeing this. Justified shooting, tried to run him over, but the sorry-ass liberals will defend her. You can see him step out of the way to shoot her, and he walks. So this guy's logical, but the fact is he wasn't hurt, and he stepped out of the way, and then he shot. So I don't think she was trying to hit him, even if she did. He was out of the way when he shot, and that's really like the main argument here is he was out of the way, and then he shot. So he wasn't in danger, he still shot her, right? That's unjustified, I would say, you know. It was justified to draw his weapon, I could agree with that, but just straight up, I mean, there's really nothing else to say about that. Oh, check this out. Oh, this video has no sound. There's another video somewhere, but this is a pastor. He's preaching at a detention center. I have another video of him somewhere. He gets pepper sprayed or hit in the head with a pepper ball as he prayed for them. They're on a roof and they just decide, you know what, I'm gonna shoot him. He has no weapon, he has nothing, and shot in the head just like that. So, you know, just think about that.
Check a pulse. No, back up now. I'm a physician.
So he's a physician. He just wants to check a pulse. He has his hands in the air. They say nope.
I don't care.
I don't care.
We got EMS coming. I get it. Just give us.
Now this guy is actually reasonable, man. He said, "Hey, we understand. We got EMS coming. Just give us a second." But he lied and said they had medics on the scene. They don't have medics on the scene.
We have medics on scene.
So that was a different guy. So, you know, I'm not saying that all ICE agents are bad. What I am saying is that they shouldn't even have the power to be doing what they're doing, right? And whenever you're an agent, when you're an officer and you're given vague orders and pretty much unlimited power, and now Vance has said they have what were his exact words? Immunity, absolute immunity. You know, that leads to a lot of corruption. You know, just putting that out there. So yeah, I posted earlier on my Instagram story, guys. I'm kind of losing it. This is a really sad time. You know, I feel like this wouldn't happen in Texas, but you never know. It might. I guess it just depends on where it was, but you know, either way, I mean, I don't know if there's a political solution. I really hope there is. You know, I don't know if there is, though, because the government obviously doesn't care about the Constitution. And once that happens, it's kind of too far gone, I would say. But just so everybody knows, her name was Renee Nicole Good. Okay. She was a legal observer. She was unarmed, and she was a mother. If you can see right there, in her glove box was a bunch of stuffed animals. None of it mattered to the terrorist who killed her. This was her wife. I guess she used to have a husband, and he died, and you know, this is who she was with at the time. Either way, that doesn't really matter. But either way, I mean, she had people that loved her, and you know, Not anymore. I mean, those people still love her, obviously, but, you know, she's gone. Just another family destroyed, you know.
I want to show you this alarming contradiction about the woman who was just killed by ICE, Renee Good.
Police Chief Brian O'Hara moments ago telling us that the only person injured on the scene of the shooting today was the victim.
Why did Trump say that it's hard to believe that the ICE agent is still alive and that he's...
Yeah, so that police chief, Brian O'Hara, who was in the Minneapolis mayor's speech, you know, we skipped off of it because he was just telling everybody what happened, but the only person injured was her, and that is true. He walked off just fine.
...covering in the hospital. Here he is moments after...
Right after shooting her. This is right after he goes and checks on the vehicle to see, he sees, to make sure she's dead, basically. He walks up there just fine. He walks back just fine. He tells his buddies to call 911 or something. He is perfectly healthy. Yeah, this is him. This is him.
Shame!
So, as you can see, he's not limping. He's perfectly fine.
Shame! 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 Shame!
So the government's lying. I think it's important that everybody knows the government's lying. Here's a veteran. Here's what he thinks.
You want to know something? I'll give you a quote. We're a third world country now. You want to know why? I'm an expert. I've been to them. I spent 17 months in Southeast Asia while the draft dodger was playing golf.
Speaking about Trump, Trump dodged the draft.
You know how I know we're a third world country? Because in third world countries, they have the military doing their police work in the cities when you walk around. I was in the Philippines the day Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law and went under dictatorship. We went from nobody to a guy with a machine gun on every corner. That's what happens in a dictatorship. In comes the military. That's what's happening here. And people better wake up to it. You want to read something? Then read your history of Germany and start comparing the tactics of what happened in 1930s Germany to what's happening here. Read history. You learn from history. Any time you have the loss of life that needlessly happens, that's tragedy. And what occurred yesterday did not have to happen.
Yeah, so I guess Jesse Ventura is also a former governor, a former mayor or something, and also a professional wrestler. So quite a crazy life, but I mean, what he said was true. And I mean, he was there whenever he watched a country that in the Philippines, which was not a dictatorship, turn into one, turn into a third world country, turn into people with machine guns on every corner, you know, and we're really close to that.
Again.
Local and federal sources tell ABC News that federal agents shot 2 people in Portland, Oregon. We're learning that the circumstances right now are a little unclear, but the FBI is responding. The agents who shot, we're told, are with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The FBI will be investigating and as the lead agency.
Just a day after an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good in Minneapolis, Customs and Border Patrol agents shot 2 people in Portland. This is a developing story, but I can't help but notice this comes just hours after J.D. Vance said this.
The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job.
Absolute immunity? Are you serious? So the standard now for the Trump-Vance administration is any federal agent with a gun can fucking kill you. can shoot you no matter what, and they are totally immune from consequences. That's the standard you want to set. The party who just spent weeks bemoaning the death of Charlie Kirk, denouncing political violence in all forms. Now state violence is sanctioned explicitly. The blood is on their hands. The blood is on Donald Trump's hands. It's on J.D. Vance's hands. It's on Kristi Noem's hands. They are directly responsible for this. It's happened before, and it will continue to happen unless they stop this.
Okay, guys. The Charlie Kirk thing's a great point. Like I started out the stream, I said, look, Charlie Kirk didn't deserve to die. You know, it was a damn shame. And it's a damn shame that this woman died too. Now, they will argue that Charlie Kirk wasn't doing anything wrong and that she was. But I will say that she was posing no threat and Charlie Kirk was also posing no threat. Neither of them deserve to die. It's pretty similar, I would say. Charlie Kirk was even technically a protester in the sense of he was protesting against what the left does, and you know, those where he has those debates on college campuses, that's, you know, free speech and a form of peaceful protest, I would say, a form of maybe not so far, maybe that's stretching, but I would say that it's a very similar thing. And you have these Republicans who are just, like he said, bemoaning the death of Charlie Kirk, and you know, but this lady deserved it, and I think that's hypocrisy. I think that's not okay. Now, guys, I'm going to end it because I'm not going to lie, I really have to poop. And just being honest with you. Guys, do your own research. Look into everything. Try not to get too worked up either. Try to see it from a rational point of view. Fact check everything. And let's start paying more attention. Be sober, be vigilant, because the devil, your adversary, is a lion roaming about, seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter... Well, I did great quoting it, but let me look it up real quick. Be sober, be vigilant. 1 Peter 5:8. Yeah. So, yeah, guys, take it easy. Have a good time, or try to have a good night. Hopefully we can stop all this, or hopefully this will stop, you know. I don't think anybody... I don't know. I just pray for peace, I guess. And also, you know, all these situations like Venezuela, Epstein's list, and, you know, it really makes you feel hopeless, you know. No one's coming to save us, you know, and no one's going to save us. The only thing that can save you is Jesus Christ. So, yeah, we're going to leave it on that. Call out to Jesus Christ. He's really our... Sorry for the hiccups. He's really our only hope, truly. He's the only thing that can save us, so just think about that. I got hiccups and I got to poop, so I'll see you guys later. God bless you. Love y'all.